But thank you all for coming along. And for those of you who I haven't met before, I look forward to the opportunity to speak with you as I wrap up the content part and we move into the question and answer section. The way that this will be run will be, the majority of the session will be content based on the framework for success. And this framework is adaptable to any element of your life that you think is appropriate: career, business, personal, financial. This is a flexible framework. I encourage you to use this in one or many parts of your life. And at the conclusion of the content, which will be done with the aid of my trusty whiteboard, I'll then have the opportunity to open it up to questions. Feel free to take notes, or if you think that there's something particularly relevant as I go through something, or if I'm moving too quickly and I don't explain something sufficiently, please feel free to interrupt me. I'm very happy to add additional details. I've had the pleasure of speaking in front of some of you before. There are some people here who are part of my NLP practitioner training, past and present students, and it's great to have some of you here. A lot of you, including those people who have never met me before, don't know who I am. And unlike my usual presentations, I'll actually take a couple of moments to tell you who I am. Many of you know me as an NLP trainer, which is what I am. I also have a business where I deliver non-verbal intelligence training, which I incorporate into the NLP training, as some of you have seen. Outside of that, I have a fairly long career as a business founder and a board director. I sit on the board of companies here in Australia, which is where I'm currently located, in Singapore and in Europe. I have founded marketing agencies, I've founded finance companies, and I have founded education and training companies. All of those businesses are still in operation, and I have a hands-on approach to some of them and a very hands-off approach to others. And I use my experience in all of these different areas as part of the training which I deliver with NLP and nonverbal intelligence. And tonight, I would like the opportunity to share with you the framework that I use at a corporate level, at an educational level, and at a personal level to demonstrate some of the processes that you can implement to create success in your life, wherever you think it's needed. Success is something which is unique to you. No one can tell you what success means other than you. You're the person who is in charge of your life, and you're in charge of your results. And so it's up to you to decide what success looks like, whether it's financial or physical, a relationship, career, business. All of these things might be important to you. Some of them more important than others, but it's entirely up to you to decide what is important and what you would like to pursue in the name of success. As I mentioned, this framework is entirely adaptable because there's no requirement for you to have a particular set of skills for business and a different set of skills for personal or your physical or financial. These tools are applicable to all aspects of your life. One of the important things that I'd like to emphasize as we begin tonight is the idea of self-belief. Now, this is something which quite recently I was reminded is an obstacle that stands in the way of many people in achieving success. This niggling self-doubt, or this lack of commitment to their own goals, or belief in their ability to actually achieve success. As it happens, all of you at whatever age you are have achieved things in your life that you didn't expect to be able to achieve. You have battled enemies and you have achieved successes without even knowing it. Everything that you have done that has led to this point has resulted in you being a success. So it's not a matter of you becoming successful because you already are. And this is the first thing that I would like to speak to you about, and that is the language of success, because this is an important one. There is a big difference between saying, I'm a failure, versus saying, I'm not successful, versus I'm not successful yet, versus I'm becoming successful, versus I'm becoming more successful. They all convey roughly the same message. But in order for you to be able to construct a belief system around being successful, it's difficult to do if you're describing yourself as a failure. It's difficult to do if you're describing yourself as unsuccessful, but significantly easier as you move into those other labels. Not successful yet, becoming successful, and becoming more successful are all positive ways to describe your current situation. And those are things that you can build on. It's hard to do a 180-degree turn if you describe yourself as unsuccessful. And so when you look at how far that you've come in your life and the challenges that you've faced and the battles that you have won, I don't see any reason why anybody could describe themselves as unsuccessful. It simply doesn't match reality. And so the next time that you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're feeling a sense of despair or that self-belief has evaporated momentarily, remind yourself of this conversation because you are successful. And if you need to write a little post-it note that says, Chris says, I am successful, and stick it on your bathroom mirror, then please feel free to do so. And be reminded of me on a daily basis because, well, who doesn't need that in their life? I say this to all of my class participants, and that is that success is a function of your ability to have successful relationships. And your ability to have successful relationships is a function of your ability to be a successful communicator. That includes the words that you use with yourself and with other people. If you improve your skills as a communicator, then you will be able to have more effective and powerful relationships. And those powerful and effective relationships will yield success. It is an inevitability. Because success is not independent. It is not something that happens in isolation. It is a function of the world that you live in. And the world is filled with relationships. If you set out to become successful all by yourself, that's perfectly fine. And you'll get there. If you stick at it, you will get there. But it becomes significantly easier when you take advantage of the resources available through the relationships that surround you to empower your journey of success. But it starts with your ability to communicate. And it starts with your ability to speak to yourself. Step 1 in the 6 steps of Chris's success framework is that you need to make a decision to become successful, to become more successful, whatever language you want to use, but you've got to actually decide to do it. If you don't, and you just sit around hoping that one day you'll become successful, there's an outside chance that somebody might trip and fall over and place success in your lap. But it's statistically unlikely. So it helps if you actually decide to become successful and make a commitment to it. And this commitment is important. It is absolutely important because success is a challenge. Absolutely. It's not something that happens without effort. And it's something that from time to time, you may feel discouraged. You may feel like odds are stacked against you and it's just not worth trying. But you've made a commitment to yourself. And everybody here has an interest in success. And so that commitment has been made. And so if you wake up tomorrow and you think, oh, I can't really be bothered, remember that you've already committed to yourself. You've made that decision to become successful. And if you decide that you would like to change your mind, that's entirely up to you. But you'll be breaking that commitment that you have made to yourself. And you'll be faced with things that you currently don't know how to do, with resources that you'll need to be able to achieve this that you don't currently have. And that's perfectly fine, because even though it may seem to be a struggle, there is nothing wrong with having difficulty in life. There is nothing that you should be afraid of in that sense, because honestly, victory is only found at the end of a struggle, but it's only a small part of what goes into success, because you should celebrate the progress that you make as you take this journey to greater success. When you compare where you are today to where you will go, that's something that's worth celebrating. When you look back and see how far you've come, no matter how small you feel the progress is, you absolutely should celebrate that, because it is the struggle that you will undertake that is the reward. The fact that you can set up and set aside your self-doubt and become successful in spite of those challenges, in spite of the troubles, the struggles that you have undertaken and conquered, then you will be able to realize the true value of that success. Because honestly, there is honor to be found in progress. Progress. And we will certainly come to that. Having made the decision to be successful, having made the commitment to yourself, the next step is to define a target. Now, this isn't a goal. This isn't a wish. This isn't a desire. This is a target, something that you are aiming for. There's plenty of videos on YouTube, on Yoku, on whatever video platform is available to you, and thousands of books that have been written on goal setting. And goal setting is something which is an important part of creating success. But this is not about goal setting. This is about actually achieving success. Because in creating a target, something to aim for, then you are creating a sense of focus for your energies. You're not taking a scattergun approach to the things that you're doing in the hope that someday you might hit something remotely resembling what you're looking for. A target is the thing that will allow you to take decisive action and achieve success. Because in clarity, there is power. And when that target is clear, when you can see where you are going, then you can put your energy into a single point and you can drive yourself on that journey towards success. It is important when considering this target, whether it's in one of those areas of financial, physical, emotional, personal, that you make sure that the target comes from your ambition, that it's something that is aligned with what you really want. Because if your target is driven by someone else, if your target is marriage, because the world says that you should be married, if your target is a six-figure income because that's what your parents think you need, and it's not driven by your own ambition and by your own desires, then that target, whilst clear, will be difficult to hit, because what is within you driving you towards success will be taking you away from that target and towards the things that you really want. This target is important to be very specific and not something vague that is broadly just a wish or a want that you would think that your life might be better off if you had it, but something very specific so that you can, well, target it. Once you have a target, you know where you're going. And once you have a target, then you can set a direction. But what's missing from that is the place that you're starting. It's easy to aim for something, but it's a lot easier to create a pathway to success if you know where you're starting from. And that leads to the next of the pillars of success, and that is preparation. Before I start on this one, preparation should not be an excuse. Saying things like, I need to get my website right. Saying things like, I need to finish my degree. Saying things like, I need to make sure that I've got $1,000 as a savings backup just in case. Preparation is not an excuse. Preparation is, oddly, preparedness. And it starts with the three questions of where, how, and what. And that is, where am I now? And I don't mean standing in front of a camera in Sydney speaking to a television of people and hoping that they're paying attention. Yes, smiles good, they're paying attention. This is about undertaking an assessment of what you currently are doing in your life and the resources that you have around you and how those things relate to where you want to get to, that target. It also relates to how can I hit my target? What are those things? How am I going to need to behave? How am I going to need to act in order to be able to hit my target? If you can answer those first two questions, then it leads to the final one, which is, what do I need to hit my target? Now, these are the things, these are the knowledge, the people, the tools, the money that you might need in order to be able to hit your target. And this isn't about what do you have right here, right now. This is about all of those things that you will be able to accumulate on your journey towards success. Because the idea that you will have everything that you need right now in terms of knowledge and skills and resources to be able to hit your target, that's not success. That's just a task that you can do. Sure, you might like to target something simple as part of a larger target, but when you're setting yourself up for success, it's not just about walking over to the kitchen and pouring yourself a glass of water. That's just a task. That's not success. Although, having said that, for some people, actually being able to muster the motivation to go and pour a glass of water may be an indication of success. Like I said before, success is unique to you, and that may be something that you struggle with, self-motivation. But having said that, once you've got those three things sorted out, then you have the ability to start to plan the pathway that you're going to take to go from here to success. You've done your self-audit. You know where you are. You know how you're going to need to behave in order to reach your target, and then what you're going to need to be able to do that. And now you can plan that pathway. And in planning that pathway, you can also take that as an opportunity to attempt to foresee those obstacles, those risks that need mitigation, but those things that stand between you and success. And if you can anticipate those things, then you can prepare for them. Because if you see one of those things standing between you and success is that you're not going to have sufficient money in order to be able to take one of the steps along that pathway, then you can include as part of your plan a way to get the required funds, whether that's going and asking family and friends for a loan or working a little bit harder at your job. But in creating where you are, where you need to be, the pathway and potential obstacles, now you have a plan. And by having a plan, you can also start to create some of those milestones, because along your journey, it will be difficult to be able to see how far that you've come or how far you have left to go. By setting some milestones in business, you'd call them key performance indicators about someone's performance in the job that they have. So these milestones provide you with the ability to mark off progress. It doesn't require you to sit there and reflect on a daily basis, because once you hit something, you've got that $1,000, you've got that $1 million, you've got the new job, you've got the happy relationship, you've reconciled with your family. Whatever success is for you, there will be things that happen along the way, and being able to recognize that success as you go will certainly help maintain that motivation. This one is the doozy. This is the killer for most people. Hard to believe, I know, it's going to come as a shock. Action. Actually doing something. For those people who have had coaching clients before, for those people who have had family and friends before, I would like to see, with a show of hands, if you please, how many people have someone in their life that wants more than they have, but does not take action to get it? It's surprising that things don't just happen without actually doing something. I know, it's a shock. Life is unfair. It's a cruel, cruel world, but we actually have to do things. And so this expression, this phrase, don't wait, create, is something that should be stuck on the bumper sticker of every car. It should be a sticker on the back of every train and bus seat, because people need to be constantly reminded that things don't happen by accident, that good things don't come to those who wait. Good things come for those who make them. If you want success, make it happen by doing something. I think I've probably made that clear enough. Do things, please. That will certainly help you to create success, because it's the only thing that's standing between where you are now and success. Taking action. If you do that, then you will start to create momentum. That first step towards success is the most difficult one. But the second one is so much easier, because once you've taken that first step, you have momentum. You started moving. If you look around in the world to people who you see as successful, they're always doing something. I'd be interested if anybody can think of an example of a successful person who's not doing something. Excellent. That's about the response that I expected there.
Some yogis meditating the whole day, is that action? It's lack of action, no?
No, that's meditation. That's still a verb. That's action. They're doing something. And also, they would probably be the best advocate for the difference between being unsuccessful and becoming more successful, is those people who realize that they have not achieved the heights that they want, but they've made significant progress on the journey. So those are the people.
Chris, I have a question related to action, but before that, I'd like to answer Yolanda. So in our holy book, the Gita, they talk about inaction in action and action in inaction. So if you Google that, that's the whole answer in itself. My question to you, Chris, is how much action is action and how much action is hyperaction?
Hyperaction. Can you explain what you mean by hyperaction, please, Tapan?
I tend to be overactive and then eventually lose steam, tired. So,
okay.
And we talk about micro action. And so I'm just wondering how much action is the right amount of action. If you have any insight on.
Yes, I do. And it's exactly the amount that you can sustain, because one of the things that I'll talk about a little bit later is the fact that you do need to take some time to review and reflect. But having that focus and having the plan, having thought about what it is that you're going to be doing, and preparing that plan and taking action. The thing that I'll get to at the very, very end is to do with an action plan, but we'll get to that. If you're able to focus your attention and your energy and not waste time doing things that aren't moving you towards success, then you'll certainly feel as though that you're not wasting your time and that you're achieving the levels of progress that you expect of yourself. If you're able to meet those expectations for progress, then you'll be able to maintain motivation and energy for a lot longer. It'll be a lot more sustainable. So it really does, in my opinion, start with that ability to focus. If you're simultaneously attempting to hit 5 or 6 different targets, it's very uncommon that they would all be in the same general area. You'll have to focus some of your attention here and over here, and then a little bit behind you from where you just came. But if you can focus on that one point and channel your energies into that, then you'll be able to achieve that success a lot faster, feel a lot better, and then be able to move on to the next thing, which is on your meta success map, would be my response to your question there. And while we are talking about this, because now is as good a time as any, the one thing about that pathway and those milestones is that you can set yourself very specific action items. Those things that you will need to complete along that pathway that will be necessary for you to take the next step. That might be reading a book. It might be finishing a degree at university. It might be making connections with someone who can facilitate your TEDx talk or something like that. These things are important because once you have them specified, then you can complete them. If you've got a checklist of tasks, it's easy to complete them. But if you have a vague sense of, I need to be successful and I can do that by reading books and riding a bike and getting up early, that's not going to help as much as having a set of action items which are required in order for you to be able to progress. If you look at someone like, I think Warren Buffett is the go-to person when it comes to financial success. Apparently he gets up very early. Apparently he reads the newspaper and then the next newspaper and the next newspaper all before 5 a.m. And that's great. He also only drinks Coca-Cola, I think. And so probably a good model for financial success, probably not so for the physical success. But having said that, there are things that he does, like the reading. Now, if you look at him as a successful person and you say, all right, I'm going to start, bless you, reading the newspapers, all of them, before I have breakfast. That'll be great to build up your knowledge of the world and financial markets. But unless that's something which is on your action item list, then you're just spending energy on an area of your life which is not moving you towards success. You might find it entertaining, in which case I encourage you to do things that you find rewarding, that help you to grow. But If you're expecting that you'll become successful just because you read all of the newspapers before you sit down for your first coffee, and it doesn't align with what you actually need to do in order to achieve success, then you'll be frustrated because you're not seeing results from the actions that you're taking. And so these actions, folding it back in, these actions that you take should be on your list. They should be the things that you have identified as part of your plan that you need to do. If you do them, then you substantially increase the chance of you becoming successful. Feel free to do other things. You're allowed to eat. You're allowed to go to the movies. You're allowed to be entertained and live your life. But if you go to the movies all the time and you just go out for dinner all the time and you don't actually put any of your energy or focus into those tasks, into your action plan, then it will be difficult for you to be able to get the results that you want. And that's just how it is. Review. Review, review, review. I'm not suggesting that you spend your entire time looking in your rear view mirror, but review what you are doing. This fun little acronym, WWWWCBBH. I always forget the H. What went well and why? What could be better and how? If you ask yourself those, what are really 4 questions, what went well and why? What could be better and how? If you ask yourself those questions when you review the actions that you have taken on the list of action items that you have for your pathway to success, then you'll be able to see those things that you are focusing your energies on that are achieving results and understanding why you're achieving results with those, and those things that are missing the mark. And when you spend time identifying some of those things, the what could be better and how, then you can make changes to how you're approaching those things. If you identify that there is a certain set of items that you're attempting to tackle, challenges that you're facing, that you're having difficulty overcoming, that are taking longer than you would expect or not getting the results that you're hoping that they will, and you ask yourself the question, what they are and how they could be better, then you can set about making changes. And if you make changes to the way that you approach these tasks, then you might find yourself moving more into the what went well and why. And you can focus your attention on those things and look for help or additional tools and resources to be able to help you in those areas that you are a little bit softer in. If you do that, that will certainly help. Document your achievements. You might be the journaling type, in which case, journal. You might be more of a spreadsheet kind of a person, and you might like to add a list of things that you have successfully completed or attempted on a daily basis. You might do it once a week. There's no right or wrong time period for these reviews, but they need to happen periodically, and you need to set aside time for this review process. If you don't, then you can find yourself using a lot of energy on things that aren't going as well as you could have them if you took time to review, readjust, and recalibrate. Review your plan from time to time, because as you progress down that pathway, new information will come to light, new skills will become available to you, and new resources that you didn't have, you will find in your possession. If you review your plan and those actions on that plan you may find some of them are redundant and no longer necessary for you because you found a way to take a shortcut, to find a more efficient pathway. But if you don't review your plan from time to time, then you'll continue down a pathway which may get you there, but might not be particularly efficient. A lot of people are very good, and I put most entrepreneurs into this category. They're really good at being really busy, but they're terrible at reflecting on what they're doing. Atrocious. I don't have time, they say. Where am I going to find the time to review what it is that I'm doing? Make it. Make the time. Because if you're walking down that pathway, but the target's really over there, and you don't actually take the time to reflect on where you're going, most entrepreneurs in particular, they don't look up for more than a couple of seconds to make sure they're not going to trip over something that's just in front of them. But they rarely look at where they're going, and almost never look at where they've come and what they've done. So if you have a look at some of those milestones, at some of those action items, at your journal or spreadsheet of the tasks that you have attempted or completed, then you'll be able to have a review of both the work that you're doing and the direction that you're going. If you do that, then you can make sure that you're not wasting time and energy on things that aren't productive or moving you in that direction. Because it's all very well and good to be aiming at success, but it's much better to be taking the most direct path to success. If you spend time to review what you're doing, then you can reassess your strategy and your plan. You can recalibrate your direction, the tools and the resources that you need, and you can keep moving forward as efficiently as possible. It also provides you with the opportunity to hold yourself accountable. If you have an action item, and against those action items you have time periods, which you may decide to employ as part of your SMART goals, your whatever it stands for, somebody specific, measurable, achievable, maybe realistic,
time-bound and relevant. I'll write it down in the group chat.
Thank you, Janine. I didn't make notes, and I always forget what SMART means. Even though I teach it, I always have to consult my notes. That's fine. It's not something which is standing in our way. But if you set your action items and you assign a time frame for those actions to be fulfilled in, and you're not able to achieve them within that time, then as part of your review, why? What's happened? And you can hold yourself accountable. If it's just a lack of interest, a lack of motivation, then that's something that you can address. If it's that you don't have skills or the resources to be able to complete it, then again, you can reassess that and take a look at your plan and see whether or not you've missed things that are necessary for you to be able to continue along that pathway. Accountability is an important thing. Either you need to keep yourself accountable or find someone who is prepared to keep you accountable. If you're someone who is thinking about building a website, but you never actually do it, then it might be useful to mention this idea to someone and say, I'm thinking about building a website, and then have them ask, when are you going to do it by? And when you say end of the week, make sure that they're the kind of person who's going to call you and say, where's your website? Have you done it yet? And then call you the next day. Have you done it yet? And then the next day, have you done it yet? Is this sounding familiar for anyone? I wasn't really singling anybody out in particular, but yes, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If there is something that you want to do, you know that you need to do it, but it's too heavy when you think about it and you don't really want to do it and you know that you need to do it, but because you don't really want to do it and it is even hard to find someone to hold you accountability, what do?
Well,
You just don't want to get to that person to say.
Would you be able to be a little bit more specific with this vague hypothetical?
Okay. I need to send some emails to some agencies, and I've been holding it, procrastinating, and I know that I want to do it. I know that I need to do it, and I know that I probably need an accountability person, but even that I don't want to reach out because I'm procrastinating that hard.
I wonder if there's someone who might be able to volunteer to provide you some guidance on that.
I'm very happy to help you. I was in exactly the same issue, and it was Mr. Chris Williamson who helped me through this.
What is the
Janine?
mindset you have?
Okay.
Push yourself to go to that person to say, hey, please.
Sure. Okay. Most of the time, when somebody is procrastinating, it's either because they don't have the skills or the resources to be able to do it, or they don't feel particularly competent and they're not confident in their abilities to get a good result. And so by deferring the task, by moving it further and further and further away, they don't have to actually face the uncertainty that will come from what happens after I send the email. Because chances are you've written the email, chances are you know who the email needs to go to, but it's the what happens when they receive it. Are they going to like me? Are they going to give me a job? Are they going to think that I'm silly and foolish? Are they going to just ignore me? It's this uncertainty that prevents a lot of people from actually taking action, because by not taking action, by leaving it in the outbox and not actually sending it, by leaving it as a draft and not pressing the send button, you're actually creating certainty. They're not able to reject you. They're not able to respond to you at all because you haven't sent the email. It's not that you can't type the email or you don't know who to send it to. It's that by not doing anything, you're creating certainty. As soon as you hit that send button, you don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea what the response is going to be. And that uncertainty for some people is terrifying. And even though if they send the email, that increases the chance of somebody coming back with a favorable response. But even though that by doing that and boosting the chance of saying, yes, we'd love to hire you. Yes, we'd love to get you on stage. Yes, 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 yes. People still don't. People still don't, because the other thing that comes from that is that on the other side of an affirmative response comes the next thing of, how am I going to do that? How am I going to get up on stage in front of all of those people? Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And so by not actually sending the email, you don't need to worry about any of that. You don't need to worry about the rejection. You don't need to worry about the acceptance. You've created a nice little comfortable shell for yourself, a little COVID-safe bubble where nothing can get in and nothing can get out. And the thing that can't get in is success. And the thing that can't get out is yourself. You'll just be comfortable sitting there wondering, what if? What if? Anyway, maybe I'll just...
Thank you. Very well said. I like it, the bubble thing.
Maybe Janine can send you a message every day saying, have you sent it? Have you sent it? Have you sent it? Have you sent it?
Sure.
And then after you do, and after you get the responses that you get, then you can whatever that says. You can do that. Because then you'll have taken an action and then you can reflect on it. Yes.
So I was doing like half of that. I was doing this, what's working and not working, but I wasn't doing what's not working and Why?
Okay.
So I would think like,
Earth to Tapan. Come in, Tapan. We'll come back to Tapan.
What could be better and how? Or what's not?
You were a little bit shaky there. Do you mind if I come back to you in a little bit when maybe the signal's a little bit better? There'll be plenty of time for me to answer that one properly. Now, this page was not intentionally left blank. I made a mistake. I turned 2 pages when I meant to turn 1, but that's the situation that I've been dealt with, that I've been dealt, and now I have to deal with it. It's at about this point that some people would say, oh, that didn't go very well. Obviously, I can't do it. And then give up, throw in the towel and say it was all too hard and it didn't work out. It's at this point that this blank piece of paper could very well have spearheaded and torpedoed this entire presentation, putting the kibosh on everything that I have said up until this point, and no one would ever get to know what the 6th point was. But fortunately, perseverance allowed me to continue on despite the adversities and get to progress. Don't laugh at me, Lara. I'm being vulnerable. Right, I've started the Mexican laugh. Great. Now, progress is the important thing about any journey. Without progress, there is no outcome. But what do I mean by progress? We've spoken about those actions. We've spoken about the review. We've spoken about making sure that you're on the pathway. But what about progress? On any long journey, it can seem like the end is so far away that there's little point in continuing the journey. For those people, well, it's really just Jay, I think. Jay, in Australia, and this is the best reference point that I have, the distance from Sydney to Brisbane is roughly 1,000 kilometers, ballpark. Now, if you were to stand at the beginning of the freeway in Sydney and say, there's Brisbane, 1,000 kilometers away, there's a lot of people who would probably say, you know what, it's just too far, it's going to take too long, I'm not even going to bother. But if you get in the car and you drive, after an hour, you've reached a milestone bridge, which indicates that you've really reached halfway between Sydney and Newcastle. And then once you've reached Newcastle, then you're on a different set of road and you're starting to make real progress. And so then you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm roughly halfway to Coffs Harbour, which is about the halfway point. And so you think, oh, I'll just keep going. Maybe I'll get some McDonald's at Coffs Harbour. That's never a good idea, by the way. I always do it, and that's never a good idea. It tastes like regret. Am I right? Am I right? But once you get to Coffs Harbour, you're halfway. You're halfway on the journey. But if you'd gone back to where you started, standing on the freeway in Sydney, and you look at how far there is to go, it's just too far and just too hard. But the moment that you set out is the moment that you start making progress. And sure enough, after a little over 10 hours, you finish the journey. You're in an entirely different state, an entirely different city with good weather and lovely beaches. And so it's something which people do day after day after day because they want to get the result. They want to get to the beaches. They want to have the lovely weather and the great food and the relaxed vibe. They want it. And so they persevere. They set out and they persevere.
Chris,
and every minute, yes, Jay.
If I may just, that when you asked me about it and confirming, you actually brought back a very interesting incident for myself when I was sitting in Sydney on my motorbike, rain gear on, it's pouring down rain. And I went, I don't want to do this, but I've sort of got to travel back. So I set myself, my first goal was to get to McDonald's at Newcastle. And then when I got there, had a break, I went, that wasn't so bad. Okay, it's raining, whatever. I'm going to go to the next place. And I think it was a Bulahdelah or somewhere. And I went to McDonald's again. So I did an 8 or 10 McDonald's stops trip from Sydney to the Gold Coast. Because...
And only added 6 inches to your waistline in doing so.
But it's quite interesting how having that goal of actually knowing, riding a motorbike, it rained the whole way, and that I could go to a McDonald's, take off my gear, relax on a veranda, and actually have something to eat. But each stop was still quite a few hours. So actually in a trip like that, breaking it up to little objectives is exactly the same as any project.
Yes, it really is. And you've very neatly rounded out what it is that I've said in the first 5 points, that you had a plan, you had a pathway, you had a target. You also understood the necessity for milestones, and then those reviews that you undertook to say, you know what, that wasn't so bad. I can do the next bit, no problem at all, because it is.
I had an objective. I knew where I wanted to get to, and I had no incentive to actually do it. So I just thought, but by thinking of a lesser, breaking it up into little bits, achieving one part first, I then started on the pathway. And I've used that as a lesson for many things in my life to kick off.
I understand. And what Jay has just illustrated is that incrementalism, which is one of my favorite words when it comes to the idea of progress, is nature's most powerful force. Incrementalism. Doing little things often will allow you to achieve success. Every now and again, there'll be a mighty shift in the Earth's crust, and it will cause a ravine to open up, but those don't happen all that frequently. The Grand Canyon serves as a lovely metaphor for this, because it is the function of millions of years of water eroding the landscape. The Himalayas did not appear overnight, but today they are the highest point, or they contain the highest point in the world. But it happened over millions and millions of years. So great things can be done just a little bit at a time, bit by little bit, consistently. Incrementalism and consistency are the two things that you can add to your tool belt to enable you to achieve success. Because little things done well, multiplied, is all that you need to create progress, real, meaningful progress. If you can persevere towards your target, persevere on your journey, then you will reach it. It's inevitable. If you have the plan, if you have the action items, if you have the target, if you take time to review what you have done and where you're going, and you continue to persevere, and anybody who knows me knows that I do like words starting with P. This is a lovely example. Perseverance. And remember to celebrate progress, because progress is the only ingredient to ensure your success. and not tripping over when you accidentally miss out a page. That's a big one. Now, I want to just talk to you briefly about setting yourself up for success. And it starts with a pre-success checklist. And that is the 6 items that we had on the whiteboard. Make sure that you have made your decision and commitments. Make sure that you have a target. Prepare, but don't use that as an excuse. Take action. Please take action. Review and progress. You can replace that last one with persevere, because they're both good P words. And that is your pre-success checklist. But here's some other little things that will accelerate that. And one of them is daily action. Do things every day. Now, there are going to be some things on your task list which are probably going to include self-improvement. It's also going to include some things that aren't quite so pleasant, because that's just the nature of tasks. Some of them are going to be good, some of them not so good. But if you do a little bit every day, then you'll actually be able to achieve things. Now, to Tapan's point earlier, he suggested that hyperactivity can lead to, let's call it generally, a burnout, a lack of energy or a lack of motivation. One of the things that can be part of your daily action is to relax and unwind, to take time to recharge those batteries, because we are all human and we do need time to be able to recuperate and re-energize. If we don't, then we will find ourselves burnt out and we'll lose the interest in the target that we have set for ourselves. And so daily action can legitimately include that time out, that time to relax. Change your habits. That doesn't need any explanation, and yet I will explain. When we live our lives, we develop things that we do just because we've always done them. We brush our teeth a certain way, we comb our hair a certain way, we put our left leg into our trousers and then our right leg into our trousers. These are all habits that are of no consequence. They're just shortcuts that we do. But if you were instead to start your day by switching on a podcast or switching on some kind of informative television show that can advance your learning, instead of lounging around in bed, scrolling through Instagram, WeChat, Facebook, whatever social media is your particular poison, and instead change your wake-up habits so that you can start the day by learning rather than start the day by procrastinating. Because when we lie in bed scrolling through messages on our phone, we're starting the day by procrastinating. That's what we're doing. And if we want to set ourselves up for success, it certainly helps if we start at the beginning of the day. Certainly, after having achieved everything that you want to achieve for the day, take time out and relax. And for you, relaxing may very well be scrolling through the Insta feeds or whatever they're called, you cool kids in your social media. But start productively. Another good P word. Model excellence, model success. Find those people who have achieved what it is that you would like to achieve and look at how they did it. Sometimes there is no model for what it is that you want to do. But chances are that there will be models that you can take from certain people who have achieved success in an area and adapt those things to how you can achieve success. Maybe it's the Warren Buffett reading the newspapers. Maybe it's the Oprah Winfrey, whatever Oprah Winfrey does. There are probably going to be things that people do that you can emulate to accelerate your success. Why reinvent the wheel if someone's already invented it? We can forge our own path, absolutely. But we don't get extra credit. We don't get to say, wow, you did an extra good job there, Chris, because you did things the hard way. That doesn't strike me as something that I think would be an efficient use of my time. I would prefer to hit my target and then reset a target and then go and work on that one. But that's just me. It's up to you. Be positive. This one might sound a little bit silly, but be positive. What you're doing is for your benefit. You've made this decision, commitment for success because you want it. And so when things get hard, when things become a little bit challenging, that's your opportunity to remind yourself, I'm doing something that I don't know how to do because I want to achieve success. It is a struggle, but I'm going to overcome it because I have resilience and perseverance. Don't simply say, this is all too hard, I give up, woe is me, everybody needs to feel sorry for me because it just got hard. Be positive and remain positive. Exude positivity. When you meet people who have achieved a lot in their life, chances are they're also the people who have taken the opportunity to tell everybody about how great what they're doing is and how amazing it was when they were able to overcome whatever obstacle that they've overcome. They're not people who sit around saying, you know what, life's really tough. I just don't know if I'm going to keep going with what I set out to achieve. It's all just getting a little bit rough. People don't want to say, oh, no, keep at it. People want to be part of your success story. They don't want to be a cheerleader at your pity party. And so be positive. It'll certainly help you when it comes to the next one, which is motivation. Remember why you're doing these things. Remember what is on the other side of that target. If your target is you want to have a 6-figure job, that's the target. But the ambition isn't specifically to have the 6-figure job. It's all of the choices that will come with the 6-figure job. It's the status that will come with it. It's the opportunity to buy the nicer house and the newer car and take 3 holidays a year and do whatever else it is that you can do with a 6-figure job. But it's not about having to go to work and work hard, because that's what you're going to have to do. But the objective is the 6-figure job because of what's on the other side of the 6-figure job. It's the choices and freedom that come with it, opportunity. And so that's why you're doing what you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're requiring motivation when it comes to doing your invoicing, which is not one of my most favorite jobs in all of my employment. Invoicing is just a mundane job that really doesn't deliver a lot of pleasure, but it is an important step in getting paid. And I like what you can do with the money. And so if I'm sitting there looking at a list of things that need to be done and emails that need to be sent and invoices and quotes that need to be done up, and I look at it as though it's just that task and doing the task is an end in and of itself, no, strike that. But if I just look at it as the task and only the task, then I'm not particularly motivated to do it. But if I look at the task because of what it will allow me to achieve, the task becomes insignificant. It is not important that I'll be bored for a couple of minutes, because on the other side of that is the opportunity that the money will provide. It's very easy to motivate yourself when you look at why you're doing things, not just what. And the final thing as part of this little exercise and the things to accelerate your success is remember to believe in yourself. You've already come this far and you've already created this amount of success. So creating a little bit more will be no challenge at all. Isn't that right? Somebody starting with, yeah, not mentioning any names. Now, Tapan, you had a question, but you were a little bit laggy. Would you like to take another stab?
No, actually, you answered most of my questions.
Sorry.
You did. Yeah, pretty much covered.
Oh, okay. That was it. There were no more questions. Okay. Sunny, do you or your associate have any questions? I'll take that as a no.
Hello. You asked me question?
Yeah. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? You or the young man who's with you?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, it's very hard to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Much better.
Okay. I find it's hard for me to for example, now I'm working in a hardware company, and my boss let me do some report about the customers. But I find I don't, because hardware for so I actually professional. Want to find a way to do it. So could you give me some suggestions to do some things you didn't good at it, but you should to do it?
So for those tasks where you don't have all of the skills to be able to do it, I think that's the question that you're asking. How do you proceed with those tasks? Yes, okay, I'll answer that question then. Now, there are plenty of times where in your job or in your life, you'll find yourself with the opportunity to tackle a task that you don't yet have all of the skills necessary. Now, when you're working in an environment, and I don't know anything about where you're working or how supportive your colleagues are, but this is an opportunity for you to either develop the relationships that you have with your colleagues and ask for assistance, because if you go to someone and say, I would like to be better, could you please help me? Chances are people in general will provide that assistance. Now, that's not always the case, in which case the other opportunity is available to you, which is that of self-discovery and self-learning. Now, again, I don't know terribly much about these particular tasks that you need to do or what sort of resources are available there, whether there are books or tutorials available, whether there are online resources, but this is an opportunity for you to be able to use the skills that you currently have to learn, to research, to discover, and experiment with different methods and techniques so that you have a different approach to be able to attempt to complete these tasks in a more effective or efficient manner. But without having some specific knowledge of these tasks and the environments you work in, then it's a little bit harder. But both of them, both are opportunities. One is through the development of relationships. And I should also mention that there is the opportunity to reach outside your current employment and into the firm of a friendly competitor. Somebody who you might know who has a similar role, either at a similar type of store or business, or someone with a similar role at an entirely unrelated type of business. This is an opportunity for you to expand your personal network as well and develop relationships with other people and accelerate your network growth and the value that you have with other people. Or the other way, to discover how to do it more effectively yourself and to be rewarded by the success that that brings. And you're muted if you're responding. Okay, good. Lillian, a quick question.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Lillian.
Glad to see you in this online meeting, and my question is how to be a successful person, and also how to build a good relationship with each other. Thank you.
Well, the first part to that is by first identifying what success looks like to you. Many people say that they want to be successful, but because success isn't really a single thing, it's not something that you can be specific to target. It's very easy to say, yes, I would like to be successful, but like I said earlier, success and what it looks like is unique to you. And so when you go to bed and you close your eyes and you think about what success looks like to you, take note of what it is that you see, because those are the things that could form one of your targets. And if you can start by understanding what success looks like to you, then you will be able to move towards it using the several points that I presented here this evening. And that would be my suggestion, by first having a clear understanding of what success looks like. Ridwan, I saw you raised your hand.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you a question regarding setting up goals. What happened? Like, how would you like to advise someone who has like two goals which completely opposite to each other? So, for example, myself, I always wanted to have an animal shelter. So I would really love to work in an animal shelter. At the same time, I also have a goal that I want to make money. So like you said, like to have like a 6-figure income annually and so on. Like that's two of my goals, like to work for animal shelter at the same time to make money. So during COVID, last year, since we are all working from home, I did get a chance to start my own small shelter, and I was really happy. I'm very, very happy in doing that. But at the same time, I'm also hustling in making money on the other side to reach out to the other goal. So at the end of the day, since the COVID situation is getting better, so I need to focus back on my main goal, which is to make money. So now I already hands off on the shelter, but I still have it. But I have I don't get the satisfaction of how do you say it, like being satisfied by having the shelter, because now I'm focused on the other goal. So how do you advise people with these two opposite, completely opposite goals?
Sure. The first part about that goal setting that you just mentioned is that you've identified 2 targets, and those things that you've identified are targets. But what is on the other side of those targets? What is the motivator for you wanting a 6-figure income, or what is your motivator for wanting to work in an animal shelter? Is it hypothetically because you want to do good for animals, or is it because you want to play with puppies? And it doesn't matter what the answer is, but it is important to look at what your motivator is to have that target in mind. And similarly, having a 6-figure income is again a target, but it's not particularly specific, and it doesn't examine what's behind that 6 figures, because it's quite possible that behind that 6-figure income is you donating a large amount of money to animal welfare and to helping those people who do actually have the resources to be able to care for animals. So looking behind those targets might help you to be able to identify which one of those you would like, because they are opposing views of what you could do with your time. Unless you are able to use all 24 hours in the day, you're quite right, you can't do both of them simultaneously. And so maybe step 1 is the 6-figure income and a significant amount of savings. And step 2 is then working in an animal shelter after you have achieved a level of financial stability. But it's important to really just start by identifying what you really want and why. If you can do that, you might answer your question.
And yet, Chris, if I may add, if you really excel at building an animal shelter, you can build a 6-figure income, because charity is also now a full-time occupation, and people easily pay 2 to 3% for doing effective charity.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And on the flip side of that, I'll come to you in just a second, Alicia. On the flip side of that is someone like Steve Irwin or Tiger King. Steve Irwin, he had his sanctuary. Interesting.
Lillian is sharing something with us.
But I do understand the point there, but it's completely different in my country, because we don't have very strong animal welfare. So the satisfaction I get from having the shelter is I'm surrounded by this animal 24 hours a day. And I'm happy with that, because like during that time, we are all working from home. Even though I'm working, I have like a full-time job, but when I get back, I spend most of my time like to send them to the vet, like to do all this kind of like a shelter kind of work. So I do find the satisfaction in there. But at the same time, I also satisfied with my current full-time work, because with this work, I get this money to like you said, like some of it I do so like send it to the shelter, but the feeling is different, rather than you sharing your income and also your time. So it's the feeling is different. So the other side, the reason why I wanted to have the 6-figure incomes is just that I can have like a nice life, I would say. Yeah, so that's why it's a little bit contradicting. So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, which one I wanted to focus more at the moment. So for now, I'm back to the full time in getting like the 6-figure income, while expanding, like maybe to invest or to get that stability, and then to come back to the second goals. But I'm just afraid that it's going to be too late, or yeah, because
there's a number of people in this room who I think would be quite happy to have a conversation with you about not goal setting, but prioritizing goals. And if you were to reach out in the Motivate community group, I'm sure that there would be some people that would like to explore this as a concept with you. Alicia, you had a question.
No, I actually had a thought, actually.
Oh. Go ahead then.
And I appreciate what you're doing for animals. I have 3 rescues, and I've run a small rescue organization here in Shanghai for mainly cats because they're the underdogs here, pun intended. But the thing I was going to bring up is that one of the things that has been big in business is a lot of the businesses and things that that put a certain amount of their money towards a good cause, people are more likely to actually buy or to work with them. I know that Monday Morning Motivation, Maria and Janine, they help trees and forestation and things. And so buying their book puts money towards that. Going and doing services with them, that money, there's a portion of their proceeds that goes to that. And so if you can afford that in your bottom line, that's just a small way to be able to get both in line in a more conventional way. But there's a lot of other creative things that you can do. And I think Tapan was kind of touching on that. I think a lot of the careers that are out there now, people are creating for themselves. So I think if you have a very rigid belief that they are contradictory, they're going to keep contradicting, but they could actually support each other if you found the creative way to merge them.
Thank you. Anthony, did you have a question? I think I might have seen you put a hand up a little while ago.
Yes. In the frameworks that you described, is there one which is a personal favorite to you? And does some of this come naturally and some you have to put extra effort to do it?
I think that is a very good question. I don't have a favorite of these. I do need to take and put in extra effort into the review process because much like many other people, I find myself getting distracted by the amount of work which is available to do. And I don't spend enough time without conscious intervention on the review process. And in starting some of my businesses before, I have really dedicated much of the time to the doing of the work and not thinking about what the work is being done for. But there's no particular element that I have a preference for. But in the last half dozen years, since I have discovered what went well and why, and what could be better and how, the review process has become significantly easier and less demanding of my energy.
Well, thank you. I think for me also that review portion was the most powerful in this session, which I really want to adopt. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. There's some Jay.
Chris, at the risk of you telling me it's not part of this process, something that I have been looking at is one of a session that I'm planning, and I think it fits in here to mention it. It's creative thinking through practice using imagination and visualization. And what I've found is that a lot of people aren't able to analyze and let things and then let their mind work to look at many possibilities of what they're doing, and that it's a creative thinking process, but it's stimulated by images because of the way the mind works. So as part of this process, I just wanted to throw in that there's a couple of books on the subject, but it's actually an interesting part that fits somehow within what you've done, which has stimulated a little more ideas for what to put into this. So I just want to mention that people should also think about how they can determine goals and parts of a process by what they put into it from the thinking and the visualization that can result. But it takes a little bit of practice of using imagination.
I agree with that. And part of the setting of a target is that goal setting, and visualization is a very powerful tool to use as part of that. When it comes to then the planning and preparation, that's more of an internal dialogue. That's a self-discussion that helps formulate the plan. But to identify that target, the visualization is a particularly useful tool to use. So I thank you for raising that. Now, there's a couple of people who I've not had the pleasure of meeting before, at least not that I recall, although the names do sound familiar. And they have their cameras on. Joyce, Sarah, and Emmy, do you have any questions that you might like to raise?
Hi, Chris. I'm really glad to heard about your. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. So really glad to heard about your really good advice about we have to know clear about ourselves. And most important, I show you not start from the beginning, but I think most of them I got it. Just like preparation, most need to or ask ourselves to understand what really you want to do, and then you have to action them. Then you review. So for the review, this part I couldn't know WCBBH. So what could be what? I really don't really understand what that's this way.
Alicia is typing into the chat window as we speak, so you'll have that. Thanks, Alicia.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And last page you just blank, and that means this is need take a time to get a progress. And what else?
No. I just made a mistake when I was preparing this presentation. The page was left blank.
So yeah, you also mentioned about we need to more be positive and remain positive. So my question about how do we always keep this positive, because when we do some things, even every day do a little things, not really hard for us just do it. But whenever we always do some things, sometimes is stressed, frustrated, want to quit it. I want to. So how do I need always keep this positive?
There's two things that I would suggest as part of that. And one is making sure that you keep your eyes on the horizon. When people, business owners, or just people generally, get focused on what's right in front of them, they forget why it is that they're doing what they're doing. And so it might be that some people, they have visualization boards where they've got some printouts of the things that they want to achieve in their life. It could just be something as simple as a Post-it note with the thing that you want that is stuck on your bathroom mirror, so that when you get up in the morning, you can be reminded of what it is that you're working towards. And so it's no longer about those piles of papers on your desk. It's about the thing on the Post-it note that's on the mirror. Because again, if you're just looking at stuff like paper that's on the desk, then you're really going to find yourself getting frustrated, because you're having to do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's taking longer and you're not getting what you want. But it's just one of those tasks that you need to complete on your journey towards success. So if you keep your eyes on the horizon, that's the bit of advice that I would have for you there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Emmy, anything from you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is my first time to see you, actually. And the first time to knowing you.
My question will be, as I know that success needs patience, right? And how do you define that your success is realistic or unrealistic? How long will you hold on a dream or hold on or struggle for it before you give up and then you realize, oh, I cannot do it, stuff like that?
Well, I think, Alicia, I think I'd like to hear your response because you were quick to jump in there.
Never. You don't give up. But I will quote Chris. You don't give up. Instead, I have my notes. You reflect, readjust, and recalibrate.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. And I agree with myself. But specifically to Emmy's point, there are people out there who have achieved what seem to be impossible things. There was a guy who one day said that before this decade is out, we will land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. And that seems like it was impossible at the time, but his vision was realized in the timetable that he had set out. Nobody thought, well, a few people, but most people thought that it was outrageous. And if you look at the likes of Elon Musk, he's the kind of person that has these crazy, outlandish ideas, and people say, you're crazy. But he still goes about it, and he still works as hard as he can with what he's got. And the things that he doesn't have, he finds other people who do. And so he brings together the resources and the skills that he needs to be able to realize his dream. I would put to you that there is nothing that you can't achieve. It's just a matter of finding the right resources and skills and time to be able to make that a reality.
Okay. So as long as you have the dream, then you have to stick to it, right?
The dream and the plan.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
How about you, Sarah? Sarah, I'm afraid I can't hear you. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. While you play with your audio settings, I'll answer. Yolanda, go for it.
Just when you fancy my question.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about what you would suggest to people that kind of have difficulties to see what they already have achieved, or where they were really successful, not where they were really what they have achieved, and or having wouldn't put it out there that much because I don't know, because they've maybe believed that what they have achieved is not really a success or something in their measures. So I would like to go into the belief system a little bit more.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons why the review process is such an important one, and to take regular note of the things that you have accomplished, is so that you can actually go back in time and look at the things that you've done. Because it is easy to get to a point in life where you have, well, you're standing wherever you're standing and you're doing whatever you're doing, but you've overlooked all of the things that were necessary to get you to where you are today. You've overlooked a lot of those challenges, or you've deflated the importance of those tasks in getting you to where you are today. But taking those notes in a spreadsheet or in a journal allows you to reflect effectively. But to the other part, okay, sure.
It's also about comparison. That's what I mean. It's for example, I cannot compare myself to others. So I'm of course trying to measure on my measurements, because when I would measure me with others, maybe I would look better or I would look worse. It doesn't matter in which direction it is. So, but when you don't compare yourself, where do you start this then? What you just said, the review. So.
Well, the review is a comparative of yourself. It is a note of what you have done today, what you've done this week, the things that you have either attempted or successfully completed. So as Maria has just put in the chat window, compare yourself to yourself. And I'm reminded of someone who complained that he just hadn't achieved anything. He'd started a couple of companies and he'd made some money, and he felt as though that by standard measure he was successful. But when he compared himself to his college roommate, he'd really achieved nothing. And you've heard the story because I've told it before, but his college roommate was Elon Musk. And when you compare yourself to someone like Elon Musk, by any measure, it's easy to see that you don't stack up. But on the flip side, he's also someone who, by all measures of the various interviews and documentaries that I've seen about him, he's not very good at having a personal relationship with someone else. So sure, you can look at his success in terms of his ability to make billion-dollar companies, but you can also measure yourself, if you choose to, against his ability to have a personal relationship with someone in a meaningful way. But I wouldn't recommend comparing yourself to anyone other than yourself, because what's that going to achieve? Other than the fact it's a nice academic exercise where you can say, oh, I'm better than this person, but I'm worse than that person. It doesn't change who you are, though. It just changes the way that you see yourself. And if you compare yourself to who you were yesterday or a month ago or a year ago, and actually go back and have a look at those things that you have completed, those tasks that you have successfully accomplished, then you have a tangible metric that you can measure yourself against. You can say, I have done all of these things, and I used to be here, and now I am here. And I think that that's more productive than comparing yourself to a generic cross-section of society. Sarah, did you get your audio working? Oh, sad face.
Did you dial in? Is it computer or is it mobile? Because usually you have to connect over internet or something. So maybe you can check.
She could also just type the question in the.
That's also a thing. Oh, goodbye, Lara. If you've already gone, then goodbye. Now,
I have a question.
Yes,
Chris.
Yi. Before you ask the question, wait.
Right.
I have officially stopped the session, but I'm perfectly happy to stick around for as long as there are questions and answer whatever questions. But if you have things to do, people to see, dinners to eat, then by all means, thank you very much for coming along. It was a pleasure to get to meet you. Sarah, I hope I hear your question one day, and please feel free to type it in the chat window and I will respond anyway. But for those people who I have just met, it was a pleasure. And I hope to see you again soon. And you're also very welcome to stick around and keep asking questions. Okay, Yi, go for it.
So the step one, you said you need to decide what you need to become, why you need to be, you need to decide that you want to become successful.
Yes.
And before that, you also said, what is successful? Do you want to become successful, or you are successful? But when you think, when I'm thinking about the step one, I need to decide that I want to be successful. That set me up to the state like I want to become successful instead of I am successful. How to balance that?
Yes, it is a little bit circular, but what the decision and commitment is really that commitment to your success. Now, in the language that you use after you've made that decision, that's really a secondary concern. But the first part is to commit to your ongoing success, your ongoing development towards greater success, whatever language you want to use. But unless you make a commitment, then it's easy to waver from the idea of success. The language that you then use to describe yourself after you've made that commitment should be in that positive frame, that I'm becoming more successful, that I am not as successful as I will be, whatever words you want to use. But I would go with the furthest end of the spectrum to say I'm becoming more successful, because you can, if you pay attention to what I've told you, that you have already achieved a great deal and that you, by any measure, are successful. And so now you're committed to becoming more successful.
Very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? Jackie? Matilda?
Hello,
Eileen? Jackie, nice to hear your voice.
I'm hearing always, but I know to me, to become success sometimes it's not easy because target is not easy to define. What kind of target is very clear, very specific, very attainable? It's not so easy because sometimes our target is sometimes always too big. It's very hard to achieve. Just like the 6-figure job, is it a very good target? It's not easy. Everyone wants to earn a lot of money. How to earn money? Actually, to a lot of people, they don't have a lot of resources to earn a lot of money. I know a lot of people are confusing about the target.
Well, there's two parts to that. One is that the target that you've mentioned can sometimes seem ambitious, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with having an ambitious target. You just said that some people don't have the resources available to make a 6-figure income, but that doesn't mean that they can't get those resources. If something was easy, like a 6-figure income, then it's not so much of an indicator of success. I don't consider myself to be successful when I get out of bed in the morning, because I don't need a lot of resources to do that. But there are people who have been in accidents in their life, and they've found themselves with a physical impairment, a disability. And for them, getting out of bed would be a significant success, because for them, they don't currently have the resources to be able to get out of bed. And so for every person, the idea of success is entirely up to them. There are plenty of cases in history where someone who hasn't had a lot of education or a lot of money has gone on to become a very successful business person. And they've done that because the one resource that they have had has been dedication and a willingness to do hard work. So it might sound like a 6-figure income is unattainable for some people, and yet for many others, they demonstrate that they can do it. They demonstrate that if they work hard, if they are clever in the way that they approach their tasks in their life, that they can achieve it, even though most people would say, you'll never do it. And it doesn't matter if it's someone ambitious like an Elon Musk, or someone who is living in remote Australia that didn't finish high school. Everybody has the opportunity to work hard and to utilize the skills that they have and accelerate and learn more skills, to develop new skills so that they have new opportunities available to them. It's not just about what you've got today, it's about what you can get tomorrow.
I know, but to me, sometimes I can't accept my current reality, but it's very hard to change this. Just like I have a trading company, I want to expand my business. I need to find the new direction. Is it easy? I think about this for, I think, 2 or 3 years. It's not easy to change my business direction. It's so hard. So maybe I needed to some strategy to do this.
Yes. So if you were looking to have a target of a different business model, if that's your target, then one of the things that might be on your roadmap is what do you need to do in order to be comfortable in taking your business in another direction? Because there might be risk associated in going in that new direction. And so what do you need to do to be comfortable accepting that risk, knowing that you are in charge of your company and that you are responsible for what happens next? What do you need to do in order to A, minimize the risks, or B, be comfortable knowing that you've done the best that you can and that you've decided to go in that new direction? These are some things which someone might like to, or you might like to reach out to one of the coaches in the Motivate group that have experience in business coaching and discuss some of these obstacles that you currently have between what you want and what you currently have.
Yeah, if the target is too small, I think maybe it's don't have some meaning. I think so. It's too big. It's very hard to achieve. I think a lot of people prefer the ambition, yeah, not the small target.
Well, I certainly
that's the reason our target is, for a lot of people, target is not easy to achieve.
Well, nobody ever said anything about easy. This is the pathway to success, not the pathway to making breakfast. Maria, something from you.
I was about to say that making breakfast can be hard, but also
deciding what to have for breakfast can be quite a challenge.
Or do like me, just don't eat breakfast, so that's easy to decide.
Yeah, that is an easy decision to be made.
But I agree with it's not going to be easy, and having a roadmap and having steps is the whole point of trying to make it more manageable and trying to make it easier to visualize, but also deal with step by step compared to having a huge unknowable idea and then trying to tackle it all at the same time. That's why breaking it down steps makes it slightly easier, but it's definitely not going to make it.
So I have a question.
Aha, she's alive.
Yes, of course I have. Any doubt of that? Is a success can be of his own rhythm, or can we push? Can we push something to have a success in a fast way, or what is the time? What is you tell each people have his own success, but is it the same for the time, or can we push it?
Absolutely, you can push it. So, for example, I have a friend. Who was ambitious, and he wanted to have let's say 7 figures in his bank account. So he set up a business, and the business did reasonably well, but he wasn't happy with the speed that the business was growing. And so he just worked harder in that business. He also went out and he found some other people that had experience in accelerating business growth, and he brought them into the business to help him fill in the areas where he wasn't particularly skilled. And so he was able to increase the speed by working harder and getting additional resources. And so for anybody who has the idea of success, whatever that success might look like for them, they have the choice as to how they spend their time and how they utilize their resources. And not knowing what your idea of success is, and just using the idea of writing a book as being something that would be an indicator of success. Like that's going to be for the purposes of this exercise, that's my target, is writing a book, because writing a book can be challenging, but that's a target which I can either reach in 3 months or 30 years.
Yeah.
It depends on how much I want to put into it and at what cost that dedication would come at. Because if I was going to work full time on writing a book, that would mean that I wouldn't be able to work full time on my other business or my job or spend any time going out and having fun. But I would be able to accelerate that idea of success, but it would come at a cost.
Yeah, you're right. Depends the time we spend on it.
Yes, time is one of the resources that we have available that we can spend on achieving success. It is just one. It's the biggest one, but we have a combination of time, skills, and resources that we can apply to our achievement of success. The other thing is our desire. How much do we desire this success? Because if it's something that is burning inside us to achieve this goal, we will be driven, and we will make progress on our journey towards success day after day after day, and nothing will be able to stand in our way. But if it's a goal that we're not particularly passionate about and we can live with it or without it, then I would suggest that that's probably not the thing that you should be focusing your time and your energy on, because it doesn't sound like it would be a real target that is driven by your ambition. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's my little message.
Yeah, but the things I need to have a job, to have a daily salary. That means I cannot spend all my time on a target, on a goal.
Well, if we're assuming that you need to have money, then yes, I agree. You need to be able to live and work to live. But if I was to use the example of learning a language, if I wanted to say learn French, then I could either do that for 10 minutes a day, in which case it would take me a very, very long time, or alternatively, I could do half an hour in the morning and half an hour at night. And instead of just doing 10 minutes a day, I would be increasing the amount of time by 6, going from 10 minutes to 60 minutes, but I would probably reduce the amount of time it would take me to learn French from 10 years to 2.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
I've never tried to learn French, and I'm sure it's much harder than that.
Yeah. No. It's not that difficult. It will be great if we take this time to learn Chinese.
Oh, that's much
2
harder.
years is 2 years is short.
Matilda, one thing that like you mentioned, that if you have like a full-time job, because as Chris mentioned, money is important and kind of necessary.
Yeah.
It's about like priority number 1 is having money to survive. What is priority number 2? Where are you making the time to work on whatever success means to you, and making the time. That's about it. No other way.
Oh yes, of course. If the job you are doing is your goal to success, is very great. But if it's 2 different things, it take time, of course.
Right. And that I think personally, that's okay, because success means different things to different people, and if that takes longer to achieve because priority number 1 is making money to survive, then that is perfectly okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I hope to see you again soon.
Yes. Next time I will put the video.
I haven't done my makeup today either.
Not even my hair.
Me neither. I just rolled out of bed wearing this recently ironed shirt.
I believe that you sleep in iron shirts. I believe that.
It's happened before, yes. Not on purpose, but it's happened before.
Definitely not well ironed, doctor.
No, not at all. Alicia, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add to the proceedings?
No, but I put copies of my notes in the Motivate chat for everybody. I only whited out my own personal ideas because I'm not sharing those. But yeah, so I thought it was great. I'm just listening to hear what other perspectives people have with their questions.
Hi, Chris.
Yes, Jackie.
I have another question. Normally,
me.
to me, I set my target by myself. Sometimes maybe my target is not right or not feasible. I don't know how about other people. Do you set your target together with friends or some people? Maybe it's much easier to be monitored or checked. Maybe from long term, it will be more efficient.
It certainly helps to have someone who can remind you of what it is that you said that you would do. And so having that supportive person to keep you accountable and keep you on track, I certainly think that there is much value to be had from that. There's also a lot of value to be had from having a brainstorming session of the 10 things that you would want to achieve, the 10 potential goals, and then boiling them down to just one. Because within anybody's life, there are many things that would make life better. And that can be personal, financial, physical, relationship, career, whatever it might be. And within each of those categories, there might be a couple. There might be a couple of things. But typically, once you start on the pathway to success, those other things that you had out there as potential goals start to fall into place. When you focus your energy on one target and you start to change your habits and start to do those things that I've suggested to become successful, to have that plan, to do those reviews, to take stock of the things that you need to be able to get there, and then periodically recalibrate, then you'll probably find that some of those other things that you wanted will start to come into fruition, to become realized and real. An example of that, and this is definitely a made-up example, but one example of that might be that for a young man who wants to be successful and find a wife, he might realize that if he focuses on his career and building himself a significant amount of career prospects, that one of the things that might happen as a result of that is that some women in his life might see his commitment and his dedication and see that as a sign that he is a worthy partner, because he can commit himself to achieving a goal. And for a lot of people, having a target and the dedication and commitment to achieve that goal can be an attractive thing. And so as a secondary benefit, he might find himself in a relationship with someone. By focusing on one thing, some other things might come into his life.
For me, I have another target. I put a lot of time in investment about this kind of knowledge, several years. But I don't know which day when I can achieve this. I can do the investment perfectly. I don't know. I don't have a clear idea about this. I don't have any friends. They have this kind of knowledge. I can ask for help. How to deal with this kind of problem?
Alicia, go for it.
I was just going to say, get a coach. When you don't know something and the people around you don't know something, that's when you find somebody who does. It's that simple. So it's either that or you read a book or you sign up for some online program. But if you have a problem that has very specific parameters, that's when you need to go to somebody who can help you navigate that.
As I said,
and I'm not a business coach, so it won't be me, but it's okay.
Or join a community of people who know more, and then that you can all learn together or exchange different perspectives about whatever investment you're talking about. Because, you know, as someone mentioned, I believe it was Chris, you know, you don't go anywhere alone because you get other people to share what they know, and maybe you can share what you know, and you can all learn from each other.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, clarity is power. Once you finally have that understanding and that clear vision, then it becomes very easy to achieve the things that you want. If you don't really know what you want, and you've just got a general idea of maybe possibly what might be good, but not really, then it's hard. It's hard to achieve that thing that will make you feel good, that's buried in all of that other stuff. Clarity is power. And if you are having difficulty, as Alicia said, in achieving that level of clarity, then there are plenty of people who are particularly skilled at the process of achieving clarity.
Thank you.
And
You're
Chris,
welcome.
question in the chat from Sarah, and thank you, Matilda, for pointing it out, because and I can read it out. It says, "I
Yes,
find
please.
clarity can be a powerful tool, but how to stick to it after a tiring workday? If I get up early to exercise, then I'm not able to get some study at night. Any suggestion or examples to be more productive?" Anyone wants to take that?
Okay. Yes, I will take a stab at that. Now, usually, but not always, but I'll take this as a hypothetical. Yes. Okay. I don't know what I'm saying, but here's what I would say. Within anybody's life, there are things that are not adding value. There are things that aren't adding value to the same level that you working on your goals would. And I will use the example of social media. Given the fact that I'm guessing you're in China, I assume that WeChat is never far away. Whether that's when you're on your way to work or on your way home from work or cooking dinner or some other such activity, WeChat is potentially a distraction because it's so easy. It's so easy to do something that just switches off for a minute and scroll. Ha! Scroll. Oh, scroll. And then all of a sudden, that's 5 minutes that you have spent doing the social media instead of working on the goals. Now, in that same 5 minutes, if you were talking about fitness, for example, then in that same 5 minutes, you could do a set of 20 squats, 20 lunges, and do some star jumps. And that would work towards your fitness goals, whereas scrolling through WeChat doesn't get you much exercise. And I don't know if you do use WeChat. You could either shake your head or nod your head. But with that laugh, I'm guessing that you do look at WeChat a little bit. And so we all do things. We make choices for every minute of the day as to what we do with our time. And there's nothing wrong with spending a little bit of time on WeChat, but you are making the choice to spend time on WeChat and not spend time progressing those goals that you have. Now, there's lots of other things that you do that you might decide aren't adding value. And so by conducting a little review of yourself and what you do during the day, then you can make different choices. You can either choose to stay in bed for an extra 5 minutes when you're not really asleep, but you just can't be bothered getting out of bed. You could use that time to get out of bed and to do a little bit of exercise. Or you could get out of bed a little bit early and prepare some healthy meals for the day. Or you could get out of bed a little bit early and do some revision of whatever notes you're studying. We all make choices. We all make choices. And there's a lot of unproductive time, myself included. There's a lot of unproductive time. Today, I drove to the coffee shop 3 times. Why? Because I wanted coffee. And so I went out. Now, I didn't need to go out 3 times. And it's not far, but I probably spent 30 minutes in the driving, the waiting, and then coming back. Now, I could have done that not at all and spent 30 extra minutes doing something else. But that was a choice that I made, and I know that I made that choice. I also made the choice, kind of accidentally, that I didn't eat anything until dinner time because I was busy, but I also know that I spent a lot of time driving to the coffee shop. Now, was that a sensible set of choices? Yes and no. But it's what no, you're an idiot. Don't drink so much coffee. But it's what I chose to do. And I live with that choice because it's mine. No one told me to drive to the coffee shop. That was me. Likewise, nobody said, do the work that I did. No one said, prepare the thing. No one said, have the phone calls that you needed to have. I made all of those choices. And some of them weren't as productive, but some of them involved me having coffee, and I like to have coffee. Oh, Maria. A coffee machine is a lovely idea. I have 2 Nespresso machines that I don't use because I don't like the quality of the coffee. And I don't want to have to do all of the cleanup that comes with an actual coffee grinder, whatever that thing's called. An espresso machine.
So you want to be a hipster without the effort.
I want to drink lattes without having to work for it.
That's your choice, and you gotta stick to it.
It is. Johnny.
Hey, yeah, I've always liked to listen when I do my cleaning, so I really enjoy these conversations. So there was a question, and the comment of Maria and Jackie kind of made me think and have a question for you too. So, you know, I come from a consultancy background, so for me, it's kind of like playing between consultancy and coaching, and I often end up doing things which I haven't done before, and I find them challenging, but I find them interesting as well. So if you end up with something you haven't done before, it's always a matter of figuring out how to get the information. I tend to like to work with vendors or with peer groups or with other people that are willing to have conversations to try and figure out what are the building blocks of what I need to master to get somewhere, and which of the building blocks can I get myself, and which of the building blocks will I need to get from somewhere else. It's very important to understand the difference, because you also said something that really hit the nerve with me, which is procrastination often comes from trying to do something which you're not good at, right? So it's very important to understand these. So that's an insight which I wanted to share, a methodology. But then my question to you is, so you're the process guy. I always like to remember you this way. So how do you turn this approach into a smooth process? Do you got any insight in that?
Which approach?
An approach of when you're entering a new challenge, trying to figure out which are the building blocks, the aspects needed to master the next level of the game.
Okay. Well, that's done. Well, you're a consultant. I think they like to call it a 360 review, looking at the skills that you currently have, looking at the objective that you have and then filling in the blanks between what you have and what you're going to need. Now, whatever the task is that you're going to be attempting to achieve, there will be naturally some areas of things where you're not as strong in those particular skills, and those are the areas where you're likely to find those challenges. So you know who you are, and so you know what your preferences are, and you know what your strengths are, and so identifying that little pathway between point A and point B, those issues which are going to require you to use those weaker areas, they're likely to be the problems. And if you assess them early, then you can say, when I get to this point, I'm going to do either A or B. I'm going to go and ask for help, or I'm going to go and learn about it myself. And if you anticipate these things on that little pathway, then number one, they won't come as a surprise. And number two, you'll already have a plan as to what you're going to do when you reach that point. And I find that surprise is the enemy of competence. When something comes up that you don't expect or know or haven't considered before, whether it's a strange question on a first date or your boss giving you an unexpected job, when unexpected things happen, then that's when your ability to think clearly goes out the window, or at least rationally, and that decreases your ability to respond effectively. So if you've got the forethought to be able to plan and anticipate these particular issues, then you'll be able to achieve the successful resolution of the challenge much faster.
Yeah, it does make sense. I have my methodologies for building company, but I actually now see that the 360 peer review can simply be done on the company level as well. Like, what are you missing in the company, in the organization, skills or whatever. So you can actually do it in the same way by having some discussions with people who've done that or may have insight. Yeah, interesting.
At the moment, I'm putting together a board skill review questionnaire to be sent out to a board that I sit on, so that we can assess the individual board directors' skills and where the board as its entirety is missing certain skill sets that we believe that we're going to require in order to achieve our strategic objectives. Because we can easily say, here's where we want to go. But if we don't know what we're working with being the skill set of the board, how are we going to get there? Are we going to need to get external legal counsel to be able to handle those things? Are we going to need to employ a different account management person to prepare the financial reports that we're going to need on a regular basis? What do we need? Can we do it ourselves, or are we going to have to go external? But if we get to that point and we say, oh, we can't do this, then we're going to have to stop what we're doing and go and find the resources that we need and bring them in and bring them up to speed. And so instead of doing that all on day one, we do it on day 100, and then we've lost 100 days.
This is like a co-creation process as well with the board?
Yeah. So
Okay,
I'm one of the directors on the board, and it's just the thing that's fallen to me this time to put it together. Somebody else did it last year, and now I'm doing it. It's an annual process, and that's the other thing. It's not something that's done every 5 years. It's done every single year. And every year we build on the questions of last year, and we consider new questions that are relevant to the strategic objectives of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thanks.
Okay. And just as a funny little side note, I went to the coffee shop yesterday, as I usually do, and the owner of the coffee shop, there's two owners, and there is 3 children, and they're all about the same age. They're probably 10 years old, give or take, and they took my order yesterday, and they like to tease me. It seems to be a common trait that I've identified among people, but they do like to tease me. And so when I ordered my coffee yesterday, and they gave me the little coffee order, and I'll just refocus what it says, if it will focus. It says Chris, and underneath my finger it says Special request, double poisoning. It's nice to have friends. And I should just note that I survived in spite of the double poisoning. I can hear laughing, but I can't. Oh, no, I can't. Who's laughing? Who's laughing?
Oh, probably me. I let
Oh,
my
that was...
my mic open.
Uh-huh. Yes. All right. Well, I can always count on Matilda to laugh at me then. Thank you, Matilda. Anybody else have any other questions, or shall I let you go and live your very interesting lives?
No, I think I will put all that under my pillow and go to sleep on. And I hope tomorrow morning I will wake up with more clear idea about what to do.
Well, you have the framework. If you start with your commitment to what it is that you want, if you have a target, if you prepare and create a plan and take action, review what you are doing as you go, and continue to make progress.
Yeah.
Then
Thank
you'll
you,
have what it is that you want.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Unless there's anything else, then I will bid you good evening.
Thanks for giving me wanting to have a coffee now.
That's what I need, a coffee.
Yeah. Very interesting session.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much.
Chris.
I appreciate it. And thank
You're
you
very
everybody
welcome.
for your interesting questions. Have a really good night.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.